Chapter 1. The Banquet of Glass and Gold. The contract arrived the way all dangerous things did, quietly. Riven Ashcroft was halfway through dismantling a custom rifle when his burner phone vibrated once against the metal table. One vibration meant priority. Two meant money. Three meant someone was already dead. This was two. He wiped grease off his hands with a rag and glanced at the screen. Handler, Jax Calder. Location, Virex Grand Hall. Event, Vale Consortium Annual Banquet. Target, Cassian Vale. Pay, enough to retire twice. Riven's lips twitched. Vale. The name carried weight even in the underworld. CEO by daylight, shadow by night. Untouchable, untested, a myth wrapped in tailored suits and stock reports. Riven liked myths. They paid well when they bled. Send details, Riven muttered, already knowing he'd accept. The assassin. Riven Ashcroft didn't look like death. That was the problem. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a face that could disappear into any crowd if he wanted to, or draw attention when he didn't. His alpha presence was unusually muted, controlled to the point of unnerving others of his kind. Those who knew him understood why. Riven didn't need pheromones to dominate a room. He did it with violence. Money fueled him. So did precision. And shiny things, gold watches, jeweled knives, rare metals, collected not for sentiment but because they were proof that he was still alive. Children weren't on that list. Yet, the target. Cassian Vale was already inside the Virex Grand Hall when the first security breach warning flickered across his assistant's tablet. Minor glitch, Iris Vale said smoothly, adjusting her glasses. Handled. Cassian didn't look at the screen. He stood at the balcony overlooking the banquet floor. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, glass walls reflecting power back at itself. The richest predators in the city gathered in one place, smiling too wide, laughing too loud. Cassian Vale smiled the least. Enigma pheromones clung to him naturally, dark, rich, intoxicating. He didn't release them consciously. He didn't need to. People gravitated toward him without understanding why. Tonight, however, something shifted. Cassian's gaze flicked toward the service entrance. His pulse slowed. Found you. The infiltration. Riven entered, dressed in black and white, head bowed, posture unremarkable. Catering staff, clipboard, earpiece he didn't use. Security scanned him and waved him through. Inside, the air was thick, too thick. Enigma pheromones hit him like a wall. Finn stiffened mid-step, irritation flashing through him. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. He hated enigmas. Too controlling, too smug, too overwhelming. He focused on the plan. Position, exit routes, blind spots. Cassian Vale would give a speech in 12 minutes. The balcony rail was glass, bullet-resistant, but not blade-resistant. Riven had already adjusted. Then, chaos. A sharp crack echoed near the east wing. Not his doing. Security surged, guests screamed, glass shattered somewhere below. Riven swore. Someone else had made a move. He pivoted, adjusting his path, and collided with a solid body. Warm, unmoving. Riven looked up and froze. Cassian Vale stood before him, calm amid chaos, dark eyes locking onto Riven's face like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. The world narrowed. Enigma pheromones flooded the air, not aggressive, not panicked, controlled and deliberate. Riven's alpha instincts roared awake, furious and disoriented. Out, Cassian said softly, gripping Riven's wrist as security rushed past them. This way. Riven should have broken the hold. Instead, he followed. The night. Later, Riven would remember fragments. A private elevator. A locked suite. Hands steady against his skin when everything else felt wrong. Cassian was composed, unnervingly so. His voice low, precise, almost gentle. You were dosed, Cassian said quietly. Not by me. Riven laughed once, sharp and bitter. Funny. I don't usually lose control. Tonight, Cassian replied, eyes dark. Nothing as usual. Heat spiraled. Alpha instincts clashed violently with Enigma pheromones, dominance meeting dominance in a way that left no room for logic. Riven remembered teeth grazing skin, a mark burned into existence. And then, nothing. Morning. Riven woke to sunlight and silence. No security, no guards, no Cassian. Just the weight of something wrong settling into his chest. He sat up abruptly, fingers flying to his neck. Marked. Son of a... He dressed fast, fury coiling tight in his gut. His weapons were untouched, his money intact, his exit unobstructed. Which made it worse. As he slipped out, memory slammed into him. The target. Riven staggered to a stop in the hallway. I slept with the man I was supposed to kill, he muttered flatly. Jax's voice crackled through the earpiece. You aborting? Yes, Riven snapped. Contract's off. Riven? I set off. He vanished into the city before anyone could stop him. The man left behind. Cassian Vale woke alone. The sheets were cold. For the first time in his meticulously controlled life, someone, had slipped beyond his grasp. He pressed his fingers to his throat, feeling the echo of the bond. Gone. His jaw tightened. Rowan? He said into the comm. Yes, sir. Find him. Sir? Cassian's smile was slow, dangerous. The Alpha I marked, he said quietly. He's mine. And somewhere deep beneath the glass and gold, something precious was already lost. Chapter 2. Ghost of a Mark. Cassian Vale had never lost anything he wanted. People mistook that for arrogance. In truth, it was discipline. Money, power, fear, patience. He had built an empire where information bled freely into his hands. Nothing stayed hidden for long. Nothing, except Riven Ashcroft. The Alpha vanished like smoke after that night. Not dead. Cassian would have felt it through the mark if he were. The bond still existed, faint, distant, like a heartbeat heard through walls too thick to break. Alive. Running. Hiding. Cassian hated it. And loved it. Year 1. The hunt that failed. The search began the very next morning. Rowan Blackwood mobilized everything. Underground brokers. Forged identity trackers. Scent hunters. Rogue Enigma informants. Assassins turned traitors for a price. Nothing surfaced. Riven's name evaporated from databases. His old safe houses were empty. His handlers went silent or swore they hadn't seen him in months. Even Jax Calder disappeared off the grid, as if the entire network had collectively decided to erase one Alpha from existence. Cassian sat in his office night after night, city lights cutting sharp lines across his face, fingers pressed against the glass. He's not dead, Cassian said calmly, every time someone dared imply it. Rowan nodded. No body, no scent fade. He's alive. Good, Cassian replied, eyes darkening. Then he's hiding. And hiding well. That was the part that slowly, dangerously intrigued him. Riven wasn't just avoiding enemies. He was avoiding Cassian Vale, the CEO with infinite resources, the Mafia king with eyes everywhere. It shouldn't have been possible. Yet 2 months passed, then 6. Cassian's frustration sharpened into something else. Pride. My Alpha is clever, he thought. Clever enough to disappear from the world? Year 2. The ghost appears. Riven Ashcroft became a rumor. In the underworld, whispers spread of an assassin who surfaced only long enough to collect obscene payments. Never for kills, always for information, protection, or clean exits. No blood trails, no patterns. Just money. Cassian tracked the money. Not directly, Riven was too careful for that, but the ripples it caused. Shell corporations collapsed overnight. Gold and rare jewels moved hands quietly. Offshore accounts blinked open and shut like eyes that never stayed open long enough to read. Still nothing concrete, Rowan reported one night. But whoever this is, they don't miss. Cassian smiled faintly. Of course they don't. Then, finally, a signal. A contract was accepted under a signature Cassian hadn't seen in 2 years. Ash 7. Cassian didn't react immediately. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, breathing slow. So, he murmured, you decided to exist again. But he didn't move, didn't reach out, didn't claim. Instead, he unleashed something far worse. The Shadow Guards. They moved without names, without scent, without trace. Cassian's Shadow Guards were not assassins. They were watchers. Observers trained from childhood to become extensions of his will. Even the best killers couldn't sense them. Even Enigmas couldn't detect their presence. Cassian sent them all. Do not approach, he ordered. Do not interfere. Rowan frowned. You're letting him walk free? Cassian's eyes gleamed. I'm letting him live. The shadows followed Riven through cities, ports, border towns. They watched him change identities like clothes, watched him vanish into crowds and reappear somewhere else entirely. And then, they followed him home. The truth revealed. The first report came at dawn. Rowan stood frozen as he read it. Sir, he said carefully, there's more. Cassian took the tablet. Read once, then again. 3 children. Not newborns, not hidden away in secrecy. Toddlers. 2 boys and a girl. Cassian's breath stilled. The mark on his neck burned, not painfully but vividly, like a claim reaffirmed by fate itself. He didn't need DNA. Didn't need confirmation. Riven Ashcroft was not the kind of alpha who shared himself carelessly. He didn't touch what he didn't intend to protect. Cassian closed his eyes briefly. You were mine, he whispered into the quiet room, from the moment I marked you. And now, they were his too. Obsession takes shape. Cassian learned everything. Names, schedules, doctors, safe routes. The way Riven adjusted his stance when carrying the girl. The way the Omega boy clung to his coat. The way the Enigma child watched everything silently. Cassian memorized it all. He never approached, never interfered. But he was everywhere. 2 years, he decided, was long enough. Long enough for Riven to pretend freedom. Long enough for the children to live without knowing their other parent. Long enough for Cassian's patience to be mistaken for mercy. Cassian Vale did not forgive. He claimed. He turned from the window, already issuing orders. Prepare the stage, he said softly. If my alpha wants to return to the business. His smile was slow, devastating. I'll make sure he comes straight to me. The ghost had been found, and Cassian was done waiting. Chapter 3. The Trap. The contract reappeared like a curse that refused to stay buried. Riven Ashcroft stared at the encrypted file on his screen, jaw tightening as he read the name he had avoided for 2 years. Target, Cassian Vale. Location, Vale Penthouse, Upper Spire. Pay, astronomical. Urgency, absolute. For a long moment, Riven said nothing. Then he laughed, low, sharp, humorless. So, he muttered, fingers tapping against the table, you again. This time would be different. 2 years ago, he had hesitated. Let instinct, heat, and a damn mark derail him. He had walked away confused, angry, and unsteady. Everything an assassin should never be. Now he had 3 reasons to finish the job. I won't spare you twice, Riven said quietly, thumb pressing accept. Flashback. The making of a monster. Riven had not been born dangerous. He had been made that way. Raised in a system that rewarded violence and punished softness, he learned early that strength was survival. As an alpha with unnatural physical power, he was recruited young, trained, sharpened, broken, and rebuilt into a weapon. No attachments, no bonds, no mistakes. That rule shattered 1 month after the banquet. The underground clinic smelled of antiseptic and fear. Riven sat rigid on the exam table, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the wall. Triplets, the doctor said carefully. Rare, extremely rare. Riven didn't breathe. Enigma, Omega, Alpha, she continued. All viable. Abort. That was the logical choice. That was the only safe choice. And yet, when the forms were placed in his hands, Riven couldn't sign them. He disappeared instead, burned identities, cut contacts, erased himself from the assassination world like a ghost slipping between cracks. He ran, hid, fought paranoia with paranoia, moving constantly, trusting no one. And when the children were born, he broke completely. They were small, fragile, loud, perfect. Riven had stared at them in stunned silence, tears burning behind his eyes as he realized he would destroy the world before letting it touch them. Present. The decision. Riven adjusted his gear with methodical precision. This job was personal. Cassian Vale was not just a target. He was a threat. An unknown variable who had already marked him once, altered his life irreversibly. I won't hesitate, Riven promised himself. Not this time. The penthouse was silent when he entered. Too silent. The moment his foot crossed the threshold. Lockdown. Steel shutters slammed down. Lights dimmed. Security systems sealed the exits in seconds. Then, pheromones. Dark, heavy, overwhelming. Riven staggered, alpha instincts flaring violently as Enigma dominance flooded the air, pressing down on him from every direction. No, he snarled, reaching for his weapon. A familiar voice cut through the haze. Welcome home, my alpha. Cassian Vale stepped out of the shadows, immaculate as ever, eyes glowing with something dangerously close to reverence. Riven's fury exploded. You planned this, he snapped. You set the contract. Cassian smiled. Of course. The capture. Riven fought. Hard. But pheromones were not something muscle could overpower. Cassian didn't touch him. Didn't need to. The dominance rolled off him in waves, pinning Riven's instincts down until his knees hit the floor. Cassian crouched before him, fingers lifting Riven's chin gently. I told you, he murmured. You were mine from the moment I marked you. Go to hell, Riven spat. Cassian only looked pleased. By the time Riven regained clarity, he was no longer in the penthouse. He was in Cassian's mansion. The confession. Riven paced like a caged animal. I'm leaving, he growled. You don't get to keep me. Cassian leaned against the desk, unbothered. You're not going anywhere. My children, Riven snapped, then froze. Cassian's gaze sharpened. Riven exhaled harshly, anger giving way to cold urgency. I have 3 kids, he said flatly. 2 years old. I disappeared because of them. Everything I am now. I did it for them. Cassian didn't interrupt. They're my life, Riven continued, voice tight. I won't let anyone touch them. Not you, not anyone. Silence stretched. Then Cassian turned his head slightly. That was all. The doors opened. 3 nannies entered, calm and smiling. Behind them, 3 small figures tumbled into the room. Papa, the alpha girl shouted, running straight toward Riven. The Omega boy followed, giggling. The Enigma child walked slowly, eyes sharp and curious, locking onto Cassian instantly. Riven's world tilted. What? He caught the girl automatically, heart slamming. How do you? Cassian stepped forward, voice impossibly gentle. Lucian. Milo. Vera? He said softly. Riven went still. Cassian met his gaze, possession burning openly now. I know everything, Cassian said, and I'm done pretending I don't. The trap had closed. And Riven finally understood. He had never escaped at all. Chapter 4. A Gilded Cage. Riven Ashcroft had lived in worse prisons. Cold rooms. Locked basements. Facilities that smelled of blood and bleach and regret. Cassian Vale's mansion was not one of them. That was the problem. The cage. The room Cassian gave him was vast. Floor-to-ceiling windows, silk curtains, a bed too soft to be practical. On one wall, glass cases displayed weapons Riven recognized instantly. Custom blades, rare firearms, limited edition designs worth fortunes. All unloaded. All useless. A reminder. You're mocking me, Riven said flatly, arms crossed. Cassian stood near the door, calm as ever. I'm honoring you. Riven scoffed. By trapping me? Cassian's gaze softened, and that somehow made it worse. By keeping you safe. Safe. Riven had survived assassins, syndicates, and betrayal. He didn't need protection. But when he looked past Cassian and saw his children, Lucian studying the room with unsettling focus, Milo already curled into a velvet couch, Vera gripping a gold dagger like a trophy. Riven swallowed the argument. A father enigma. Cassian proved his intentions not with words, but with consistency. He woke early to check on the children. He learned their schedules, their preferences, their fears. Vera adored him instantly, clinging to his leg and demanding to be carried on his shoulders. Milo followed him like a shadow, soothed by Cassian's calm presence. Lucian watched silently, calculating, eyes far too intelligent for his age. Cassian noticed. "You're sharp," he murmured once, crouching to Lucian's level. "Just like your father." Lucian blinked slowly, then nodded. Riven watched it all with clenched fists. This was wrong. Cassian was supposed to be a monster, a manipulator, a tyrant. Instead, he was careful. Territory and tension. Cassian never touched Riven without permission, but he was everywhere. Always close. Always watching. Always ensuring Riven lacked for nothing. "You don't need to buy me," Riven snapped sake. A neon evening staring at a velvet tray filled with jewelry. Cassian tilted his head. "You like shiny things?" Riven froze. Cassian smiled faintly. "You don't even hide it." Anger flared, but so did something dangerously close to warmth. Cassian remembered him. All of him. The slow erosion. Days passed, then weeks. Riven demanded freedom. Cassian refused. Riven threatened violence. Cassian accepted it calmly, knowing Riven would never strike him in front of the children. Riven tested boundaries. Cassian never wavered. "You're infuriating," Riven growled one night. "I know," Cassian replied. "I love that about you." The word hit harder than any weapon. Love. Riven told himself it was manipulation. That the luxury, the patience, the devotion were tactics. But tactics didn't wake up at night when Milo cried. Tactics didn't let Vera paint their nails gold and black. Tactics didn't sit beside Riven in silence, never demanding anything. Breaking point. The turning point came quietly. Riven woke from a nightmare, sweat-drenched and shaking, instincts flaring violently. Cassian was there in seconds. No questions. No dominance. Just steady hands and a voice low and grounding. "You're safe," Cassian murmured. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Riven laughed weakly. "You already did." Cassian didn't deny it. He bowed his head instead. "If hurting you is the price of keeping you," he said softly, "I'll carry that sin forever." Riven stared at him, heart twisting painfully. This was wrong. And yet, the fall. It happened gradually. Riven allowed Cassian to sit closer, to brush fingers together, to stand behind him without flinching. One evening, Riven found himself laughing, genuinely, at something Cassian said. The realization hit him like a blade. "I'm falling. Despite the cage. Despite the manipulation. Despite knowing better." Riven loved his children. Loved money. Loved freedom. And now, he loved the man who had taken it all away. Cassian saw it the moment Riven stopped fighting. His victory was silent, complete, and terrifyingly gentle. Chapter 5. Marriage, Blood, and Vows. Riven accepted the bond on a quiet morning. No grand declaration, no dramatic surrender. Just a moment where he looked at Cassian, standing by the window with Vera perched on his shoulder, Milo asleep against his chest, Lucian reading something far too advanced for his age, and realized there was no version of the future where he tore this apart and survived the guilt. "I'll stay," Riven said finally. Cassian turned slowly. The room held its breath. "I won't run," Riven continued, voice rough. "I won't fight this anymore. But I won't be owned like an object either." Cassian crossed the room in 3 measured steps and knelt before him. "You were never an object," he said, reverent. "You were a miracle I refused to lose." Riven closed his eyes. Then bind me properly, he muttered. If you're going to cage me, at least make it official. Cassian smiled like a man receiving absolution. The Wedding of Kings. The wedding rewrote history. Held on private land overlooking the sea, protected by shadows and secrecy. It was a ceremony only the most powerful dared attend. Mafia heads, corporate titans, underworld monarchs, an Enigma king marrying an alpha assassin. Scandalous, terrifying, legendary. Riven wore black and gold, tailored, sharp, unapologetic. Cassian wore white, edged with blood-red embroidery, symbol of devotion and ownership in old Enigma rites. When the vows were spoken, Cassian did not look away. I fell in love with you long before you knew my name, Cassian confessed softly, voice carrying through the open air. I saw you kill a man who thought himself untouchable, efficient, merciless, beautiful. Riven stiffened slightly. In that moment, Cassian continued, I vowed that the world would never claim you before I did. By fate, force, or devotion, I would make you mine. Riven swallowed. And I, he replied after a pause, swear to stay, to protect what's ours, to never regret choosing this, even if I should. The bond sealed like fire beneath their skin. Domestic tyranny. Marriage did not soften Cassian. It refined him. He adored Riven obsessively, tracking his moods, anticipating his wants, learning every expression like scripture. Riven pretended to hate it. Pretended. Cassian brushed Riven's hair at night, pressed kisses to his knuckles absent-mindedly, watched him like a dragon guarding treasure. Their children flourished. Vera ruled the household with iron fists and sticky fingers. Milo slept curled between them most nights. Lucian asked Cassian unsettling questions about power and control, and listened far too intently to the answers. Riven laughed more, slept deeper, loved harder, and 1 year into their marriage, the doctor smiled. Congratulations, she said. Another child. Riven groaned. Cassian looked like he'd been blessed by the gods. Epilogue. The truth buried in silk. That night, long after the mansion fell silent, Cassian stood alone in his study. He unlocked a drawer no one else knew existed. Inside lay paper yellowed with age. An assassination order. Cassian's handwriting, altered, disguised. Target, Cassian Vale. Contract issuer, a false name. Delivery, direct. The memories surfaced easily. The banquet chaos he orchestrated. The drink he had personally ensured was dosed. The handler's voice he had mimicked perfectly. The night he marked Riven knowing full well what it would do. The disappearance he allowed. The reunion he engineered. Cassian closed the drawer gently. I never lied when I said I loved you from the first moment, he murmured into the darkness. I only lied about everything else. Riven would never know. And Cassian Vale never regretted a single sin.